All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. We got week number 15, Thursday night football. Tampa Bay Bucs taking on the Atlanta Falcons in today's video. I'm going to dive into this game. I'll break it down. I'll give you my prediction on the side. I'll give you my prediction on the total. We'll talk about any other plays like player props that we like within the game as well. But as always, guys, make sure to keep an eye down on the pinned comment of this video. That's where you'll find all of my final plays, so I'm actually rolling with myself. If that does interest you, it's absolutely free down in the pinned comment. All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. I tell you guys I'm a dummy all the time. They don't suck. They've just been sucking. Get them down to -3, 4. More juice than Jose Canseco in his prime. Tell me you're new without telling me you're new. So don't go jumping down my throat in the comments, right? If you want to fade me, or if you do want to ride me, this still leaves a bad taste in my mouth, right? And remember, more chins, more wins. Now, last Thursday was our only good day of the week. And if you know, you know. In fact, we can just kind of recap it really quickly here. So Thursday Night Football went well for us, right? We go 3-1, and our loss was like our smallest unit play. And I'm like, all right, we're rolling. Heading into week number 14, feeling good. Then Sunday came. The reverse sweep, probably our worst night in terms of picks on the channel and just in general of the entire eternity. Tough pill to swallow. We do a little bit better on Monday Night Football, but nonetheless, the star, or the infamous star, the villain of last week was that Sunday slate. But let's see if we can jump back on the winning week train here, starting it off with Thursday Night Football. Bucs taking on the Falcons. Guys, before we dive into this game, go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button as well. Drop all of your favorite plays for this game down in the comments. Yeah, we might need some winners. We might need some bangers down in the comments after how we performed on Sunday, right? So let me know all your favorite plays and your favorite angles down there. You're not just helping me out or letting me know what you're rolling with. You're also helping out a ton of other people that are looking for some additional insights and angles and plays for this Thursday Night Football game. But let's jump into it, right? We got the Bucs 4-point favorites at home, total sitting at 44.5. In terms of playoff implications, this game doesn't matter for the Falcons. In fact, none of their games matter. They're already eliminated from the playoffs. But the Bucs are definitely looking for a win. With a win, their chances to make the playoffs increase to 80% chances. And with a loss, I think the chances drop down to like 53%. So this is a big enough game, especially coming off of a loss last week against that Saints squad, right? Like, it was rainy, it was crappy. Not exactly their best look. And honestly, the Bucs team hasn't looked all that great as of late. Neither has Atlanta, though. They're coming off of getting demolished by the Seahawks. They got beat by 1 million, right? So where do these two teams stand this week? Now, injuries are definitely something that we want to talk about. On the Atlanta side of things, Drake London, he is questionable, as is Kyle Pitts. Drake London has been missing games. Pitts, not so much. If Pitts is out of this one, geez, who are they throwing to, right? Right guard Lindstrom, he's questionable as well. And on the defensive side of things, Onyemata, defensive end, and Walker and Terrell are both questionable. So there are some injuries that we need to do our due diligence and keep an eye on, right? On the Bucs side of things, yeah, the list goes on. Both of these teams pretty damn decimated, but Mike Evans does have a chance to come back this week, which would be pretty damn huge. I don't know if he were to play, would he be 100% or play 100% of his normal workload? I'm not sure, but he is questionable now to play in this one. Otten is doubtful. Tristan Wirfs, offensive lineman, questionable. And then Dennis and Reddick in the linebacker position, questionable. And Tyke Smith, questionable in the safety position. I think he actually might be doubtful last I read. But point being, guys, a lot of injuries in this game. Even after we post this video, there's no going back and figuring out who's playing, who's in, who's out to, reinstate into the video. So make sure you're doing your own due diligence following along with the injuries. But let's talk about this one, right? Bucs, again, 4-point favorites at home, in desperate need of a bounce-back win. Let's talk about Baker and this offense going up against the Falcons' defense. Then we'll flip it. We'll look into Kirk Cousins and this Atlanta offense against the Bucs' defense. And then we'll give our spread lean, our total lean. Then I have a few player prop spots that I'm liking in this one. So right now, yeah, Baker Mayfield has fallen off since week 10, right? After that, 173, 1-1, so 1 touchdown, 1 interception against Buffalo. He did get hurt in the next game against the Rams, 41, 1-2, 144 and 1 touchdown against Arizona. And then last week, 122, 1-1. This is tough to see, because this was a guy that was in the MVP conversation just before that, you know what I mean? Throwing for 300 plus yards a game, multiple touchdowns, creating miracles, magic game endings. and he's kind of fallen off. Now, I guess we could chalk it up to some injury. Offensive line gets banged up. Evans and Godwin have been in and out. I mean, Bucky Irving missing a chunk of time is massive as well. Well, Baker Mayfield's going to see, you should see, a lot of man from this Falcons team, and I do think that that is a decent enough spot from him. We can jump into the Guy Boston Sports NFL dashboard found at GuyBostonSports.com. Head to the members area, NFL dashboard right there. You can see here that, yeah, this is a team that's going to lean slightly towards the man. And honestly, from what I'm seeing, there is, I guess outside looking in would be a mixed bag of Baker against man. But the numbers I like would be passer rating. That goes up against man. Completion percentage, that goes up. DVOA and EPA both go up against man. So I do like the idea of Baker in this spot being able to dissect a pass defense that realistically hasn't been all that tremendous as of late, right? Allowing 203 through the air in the last 3 games, and they're not even getting passed on all that much. So I do think that this is a spot in which Baker can dissect that defense if the offensive line holds up and stops the blitz, because this is an Atlanta team that is 3rd in blitz rate. Now, they do not necessarily get home, more of a middle-of-the-pack team in terms of actual pressure rate, but again, blitzing over the last 6 weeks at a top 3 rate. Now, this offensive line, last 6 weeks, same sample size, right? 9th lowest adjusted sack percentage, so very good of the offensive line. 5th lowest pressure rate, very good of the offensive line. 3rd cleanest pocket over the last 6 weeks, that's awesome. 2nd lowest QB hit percentage. I think Baker's going to have time to deliver here, and if he has some, health things go his way in terms of his team around him, we could see Baker looking pretty good. I mean, imagine finally seeing Godwin, Evans, and Igbukah, all good to go. Bucky Irving there to anchor the run game. I think Baker could be back on track here with a good game overall. Now, what about the run game, right? Because we mentioned Bucky Irving a couple times here. He's finally back. He's played 2 games in a row now, 61 yards and 55 yards. I do think it's very important to note that, because with Bucky Irving, I think it's safe to say he's the best back on that team, right? I know Sean Tucker has stepped up and Rachaad White to some degree, but Bucky Irving is the cog and the anchor, like I referred to, of that run game. It can kind of open up the offense overall. And this is very important because with Bucky Irving in the lineup, the last 2 weeks, they have run a ton, and I mean a ton, of man rushing scheme runs. Not the outside zone, not the inside zone, no zone. Man rushing scheme is their priority, and Atlanta versus the man in terms of the rush over the last handful of weeks, 4th highest yards per carry, the most touchdowns allowed in the entire league over the last 6 weeks, 5th worst EPA for attempts, 7th worst DVOA, and 4th highest success rate. And guess what? Yards after contact. So even when they start to tackle, they don't. 3rd highest yards after contact. Bucky Irving in the ground attack could be in a good spot here and kind of a get-right spot for this offense overall. I do want to make note that Sean Tucker, even with Bucky Irving being back those last 2 weeks, leads the team in average yards after contact in the man scheme. So maybe he's someone that we'll look at. We'll talk about that a little bit more when we get to the player prop portion of today's video. But yeah, maybe there is a little angle to say, hey, the guy that actually gets the yards after the contact in that rushing scheme, maybe he's worth taking a little bit of a flyer on. But again, we'll talk about him specifically a little later on. Let's move on to the Atlanta side of things, because yes, I've already said it. I think this Bucs offense is in a decent enough spot. Before we do that, guys, I want to talk to you about Underdog. They have a new deal now for new customers, and you don't want to miss it. Play $5, get $75. Yes, you place a $5 entry, and boom, you get $75 in bonus funds. You're also going to get this Bijan 0.0 rushing plus receiving yards. That means Bijan can run for 1 yard, this square cashes. He can catch the ball and get 1 yard. This square cashes. Go check it out, guys. Link down below in the description, as well as the pinned comment. A lot of cool, innovative stuff coming from Underdog. You do not want to be late to the party. Go check it out. Again, that link will be down below in the description, as well as the pinned comment. Use code GUYBOSTON when signing up. Let's dive into this Atlanta team, because much like we talked about with the injuries on the Bucs side of things, yeah, there's a ton of injuries to note for Atlanta, and we already kind of went through them, but, Michael Penix, we didn't even mention yet, their young quarterback of the future, gone. So now Kirk Cousins has taken over, and this hasn't really looked all that tremendous, but I don't necessarily think it's the worst of situations for Kirky Boy. I mean, you're going to get a slightly, uptick of man with this Bucs squad, which, yeah, isn't all that great, but this is what I'm looking at. And if we know the identity of the Bucs, we know they'll pressure, we know they'll send blitz. Todd Bowles. Check it out. Against pressure, against blitz, like Kirk Cousins being the veteran quarterback that he is, really doesn't get shaken. His passer rating goes up against both pressure and blitz. Yards per attempt goes up. You can see interception rate drops. YPA, goes up. I think I already said that, but EPA also gets a little bit better. So is it weird to think that, yeah, the man could be a problem, but Kirk Cousins against blitz, maybe he's getting the ball out of his hands fairly quickly. Maybe he's finding some guys. That could be the case here. Now, I say could because how much juice does he have left in the tank? That's still kind of TBD. But what I will say, and this is the big question we have to ask ourselves, because pretty much any serviceable quarterback this year has lit up, and I don't even use that term lightly, like pretty much lit up this Bucs defense, right? Seattle, Sam Darnold, week number 5, 341. Mac Jones, week 6, 347. Jared Goff, week 7, 241. Then you had Rattler and Tyler Shuck, who, they've seen Shuck twice. Those guys didn't do well, but I wouldn't call them serviceable. Drake May, 270 against them. Josh Allen, 317. Matthew Stafford, 273. Jacoby Brissett, 301, and then Tyler Shuck again last week, just 144. So, like, anyone with a name, anyone who's anyone, has done pretty well. But is Kirk Cousins in the Rattler and Shuck range, or is he in the, Jared Goff? I mean, I think we could put him in the Mac Jones and say Jacoby Brissett range, so maybe that is good for him. But you know what I'm saying here? Which bucket does he fall into? But I don't think he's in the worst of spots. Is it going to be all that great? No, because I disagree with the idea that he's going to be good against the man. But I think the blitz and the pressure, he could do pretty damn well. Now, we've talked about Kirk Cousins in the offense. We didn't even mention almost not arguably the best player on the field, right, in Bijan Robinson. How is this ground attack going to work against this Bucs team who, realistically, they haven't been all that bad against the ground this year? 8th in terms of rushing yards per game, 15th in rushing yards per carry, but from a DVOA perspective, they are a top 10 team in terms of run defense. But the biggest thing to note here, and you can see this in our NFL dashboard, is that this Atlanta team pretty much runs the outside zone, right? And from the looks of it, doesn't look like Tampa Bay is all that phenomenal at stopping the outside zone. And if we look even deeper, yeah, I mean, it kind of rings true. Most yards before contact, 14th in EPA per attempt, 14th in DVOA. So maybe there is some wiggle room for this run game to get going. Overall, I sit here and look at these two teams and look at the defenses and offenses and think, I think that they can move the ball. Like Kirk Cousins, maybe he doesn't have a massive game, but if he can handle the blitz, handle the pressure, get the ball out quick, I think we see the ball move downfield. Bijan Robinson, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that he's in a tough spot either. I think I'm going to lean towards the over 44.5 as my first spot here. And in terms of where I'd go from a side, I can't look past the Bucs. This game matters to them playoff-wise, and I do think they have the better offense and the better defense. What more can you ask for, right? If Mike Evans plays and Tristan Wirf plays, like they do have an upside here that we can't even measure right now. But I do think that this is a spot in which they are just the better team. Now, let me be clear. If Kyle Pitts doesn't play, if Drake London doesn't play, I don't necessarily know if I still like the over that much. Maybe, just maybe, we pivot to a team total over for the Bucs if that's the case, because again, I do think London's obviously one of the best receivers in the league, but a nice target for Kirk Cousins to have, especially against man coverage. And Kyle Pitts, who we could talk about in a second, should be pretty damn important against the pressure, against the blitz, or for quick read and fast, quick throws. So I do think that obviously if those guys don't play, it probably walks me off the over a little bit. But what do you say we go ahead and talk about a couple player props here? The first one I'm taking a peek at is going to be Kirk Cousins. I like his over in completions. We had already talked about a bunch of the quarterbacks against this Bucs team have kind of torn them up. And you can see here, Shuck didn't hit it. Drake May, okay, 16. But, 19 from Allen, 25 from Stafford, 29 from Brissett. I think this is going to be a spot in which we see, Kirk Cousins get to that 20 completions rate. And you can even see here, Tampa Bay, in terms of pass completions defense, they don't rank all that well, right? 24th in completion percentage against, and then pass attempts, 21st. The only reason I don't lean into the pass attempts here at 31 is simply because I do think we're going to have some efficient throws out of Kirk in the blitz and in the pressure that do convert to completions, and I don't think their game script is going to be fully pass, right? So I think the completions is a little bit better of a look here. He's been really hit or miss to this line, I can admit that. But let's move on to the guy that I think is going to be the number one target, especially if we don't see Drake London. Kyle Pitts, and this is not me, breaking any news that he's going to be the number one target. Kyle Pitts over 58.5 receiving yards, 59 in a lot of places you could see here, but right over here, over on what book was that? I believe it was Caesars. You can get 58.5. Do I think that 1 yard is going to make a difference? Not so much, but hey, you never know. Now Tampa Bay is a little bit better against the tight ends, but realistically, what I'm looking at here, and again, we already talked about with our dashboard that Tampa Bay is going to send the pressure and going to send the blitz, and we said that Kirk Cousins, I almost said Drake May. Kirk Cousins not too bad against the blitz, right? Well, guess who he looks to? I already talked about this too briefly. I guess I spoiled what we were getting at here. But Kyle Pitts, the number one target in terms of quick throws against the blitz, against man blitzes, and against pressure. So I do think that this is a decent enough spot for him. I also would consider if this gets up, it's at 109 right now. If this gets up at 5.5 to, plus money, maybe this is a look that we could consider. You could see Trey McBride, Higgins, Davis Allen, Colby Parkinson, all tight ends that recently did hit their overs against this team in Tampa Bay. Now let's move over to the Tampa Bay side of things. Bucky Irving, I like him to score a touchdown, but I also do like his rushing yards. I think touchdown at plus 125 is a decent enough look. You can see these odds have been kind of moving around, but right now, we kind of get into it. Plus 130, plus 125 seems to be pretty good across most books, right? And by the way, guys, this is Outlier, the tool you're seeing on your screen right now. Check it out. Link down below in the description. 7-day free trial. But like I mentioned, I like his rushing yards as well at 62.5. You can get this line. It kind of varies everywhere. 59.5, you feel a bit more comfortable with that. He has hit it once since coming back. But Atlanta against the rush, not all that tremendous. And if we scroll down here, you see a mixed bag, but I do think that, there is a level of, okay, maybe a Jonathan Taylor is a little bit more applicable here in terms of game script, right? Where the Colts are looking good. This one's a little bit high scoring of a game, and he went off. Now, do I think Bucky Irving's going for 244? Hell no. No. But I do think that this game may be a little closer than some of the ones that we're looking at here, meaning Bucky's going to get his attempts. But again, I do think the Bucs are the team to favor, and if that's the case, then guess what? Even if they do blow him out, he probably gets some extra run. Now, we talked about Sean Tucker. And I don't think we have the line for him yet, but Sean Tucker would be a guy that I consider if we get a decent enough yards line for him. Like I said, right now we don't have it, but this is a guy that steps up in that man scheme, and especially in the yards after contact category that we talked about. Yeah, this is a Falcons team that allows a ton of yards after contact. He could get going. I'd consider maybe his longest rush or even his yards just in general. But guys, that's what we're looking at as of right now. I always ask you guys to keep an eye on the final plays down in the pinned comment in case we add or change or make any adjustments, anything like that. But just to recap here, we do like the Bucs minus the 4. Obviously, kind of being a weird number. I like it at -3, but who knows what those odds are going to be. But I like the Bucs. I like the over in this game as well. Maybe there's some sort of an SGP or teaser that we can involve where we get, Bucs +3, right? 7-point teaser and over 37.5, something crazy like that, right? I like those two sides. And then from a player prop perspective, Kirk Cousins I do like, mainly from a completion standpoint, not in attempts, not in yards, anything like that. I like Kyle Pitts, that he's, if he's going to look for him. And I like it even more if Drake London's not playing. And then Bucky Irving, touchdown, rushing yards, longest rush, as well as Sean Tucker from a yards and longest rush standpoint. That's what we're looking at as of right now. But let me remind you, tons of injuries, tons of things to keep our eye on and keep our nose down and keep working. So make sure to keep an eye down on the final plays. That's all for me, guys. If you made it this far into the video, go ahead and comment 1919 down below if you made it this far. I'll catch you guys in the next one, all right? Peace out.